In the quiet suburbs of a wealthy American town, there was a mansion that looked like a castle. Behind its glittering windows and polished floors worked Maria, a maid who spent her days cleaning, scrubbing, and serving the wealthy family that lived there. But her heart was always with her daughter, Lily. Lily was just 12, a shy girl with big brown eyes and hair that always seemed to fall into her face. She would sit silently in the corner when her mother worked late, sketching on scraps of paper or humming little tunes to herself. The family's children, spoiled and arrogant, mocked her every chance they got. To them, she was just the maid's daughter, someone not worth noticing. But Lily had a secret. Every time Maria worked in the grand hall, Lily would sneak over to the piano that stood there like a forgotten treasure. It was a glossy black instrument, shining under the chandelier, rarely touched by the family. Lily's fingers, small and uncertain at first, began to learn the keys. She never had lessons, but music came to her like breathing. Each note she pressed seemed to carry her heart, her sadness, her longing for a better life. Still, the others only laughed. One afternoon, when Lily was caught near the piano, the family's eldest daughter sneered. "Do you even know what those keys mean? Go back to where you belong." The children's laughter echoed in the hall, sharp and cruel. Lily lowered her eyes, pretending not to care, but inside her chest a storm was building. Maria noticed her daughter's quiet strength. After long days of work, she would whisper, "One day, Mija, your gift will shine. Don't let their laughter silence you." Lily nodded, clutching her mother's words like a lifeline. She didn't know it yet, but her secret hours at the piano would soon change everything. Her life, her mother's sacrifices, and the way the world saw her. Weeks passed, and Lily's secret practice became her only escape. Every note she played felt like a door opening to another world, one where no one mocked her, where her mother wasn't exhausted, and where she wasn't just the maid's daughter. She would wait until the family left for dinners or parties, then carefully press the piano's keys, her small hands trembling with both fear and excitement. One evening, as her fingers danced across the keys, she didn't realize she was being watched. Standing near the staircase was Mr. Thompson, the wealthy owner of the mansion. He was tall, stern, and always busy with business calls. Lily froze, her heart pounding. She expected him to scold her, maybe even forbid her from ever touching the piano again. But instead, he chuckled. "So the maid's daughter thinks she can play piano?" His voice carried a mocking tone. From upstairs, his children rushed down, curious about the sound. When they saw Lily at the piano, their laughter exploded. "She doesn't even belong in this house, and now she thinks she's Mozart," one of them shouted. The cruel word stung, but Lily kept her hands pressed against the keys, as if the instrument itself could shield her. Maria rushed into the hall, panic on her face. "I'm so sorry, sir." "She won't touch it again," she pleaded, pulling Lily away. But Mr. Thompson smirked. "Relax, Maria. Let's make this fun. Next week, we're hosting a dinner with important guests. Let's see if your daughter can entertain us. If she fails, she'll never touch this piano again." The children clapped mockingly, already picturing her humiliation. Maria's face turned pale, but Lily's eyes, though filled with fear, carried a spark of determination. That night, as they walked home to their small apartment, Maria whispered, "You don't have to do this, Lily. They only want to laugh." But Lily shook her head gently. "Maybe they'll laugh, Mama. But maybe if I play with my whole heart, they'll finally hear me." Maria wrapped her arms around her daughter, torn between fear and hope. The stage was set, and the clock was ticking. The week that followed felt endless. Every night, Maria worried aloud, pacing their tiny apartment. "What if they laugh at you, Lily? What if they never let me keep this job?" She bit her lip until it almost bled. But Lily only sat by the cracked window, her fingers tracing invisible keys in the air. "I don't care if they laugh," she said softly. "I just want to play." Maria sighed, knowing her daughter's spirit was stronger than her own fears. She remembered her own childhood in Mexico, when she once dreamed of becoming a singer. But poverty silenced her dream before it ever began. Looking at Lily now, she prayed her daughter wouldn't suffer the same fate. On the night of the dinner, the mansion glowed with golden lights. Expensive cars lined the driveway, and guests in glittering gowns and sharp suits filled the halls. Waiters carried trays of champagne. Laughter echoed off the marble floors, and the smell of roasted meat drifted through the air. Maria worked tirelessly, her eyes darting to her daughter whenever she could. Lily sat quietly near the piano, her small dress patched but clean, her hands folded nervously in her lap. She looked so small in that grand hall, like a sparrow surrounded by eagles. Finally, Mr. Thompson raised his glass. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced with a smirk, "tonight we have some unusual entertainment. Our maid's daughter thinks she can play piano. Let's see if she can impress us." The room erupted in polite chuckles, though some faces showed curiosity. All eyes turned toward Lily. She rose slowly, her knees trembling, and walked to the piano. The polished surface reflected her anxious face as she lifted the lid. A cruel whisper cut through the silence. "This should be good," one guest muttered. The Thompson children smirked, waiting for her failure. Maria stood frozen in the corner, her hands clutching a tray so tightly her knuckles turned white. She whispered a silent prayer. Lily placed her fingers on the keys. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought everyone could hear it. For a brief second, she wanted to run. But then she remembered her mother's words, "Don't let their laughter silence you." And with that, she pressed the first note. The first note hung in the air, trembling and uncertain like Lily herself. For a moment, the guests exchanged amused glances, waiting for the disaster they were sure was coming. But then her fingers began to move again, slower this time, then faster, shaping a melody that seemed to rise from somewhere deep inside her. The laughter faded. The notes flowed like water, weaving together into a song she had created herself during long, lonely nights. It wasn't polished, not like the rehearsed pieces taught in music schools, but it was raw and full of emotion. Each key carried the weight of her mother's sacrifices, the sting of cruel words, and the quiet hope she kept hidden inside her heart. Maria felt tears blur her vision. She had never heard her daughter play like this before, so powerful, so fearless. Even the waiters stopped moving, trays balanced in their hands, as they turned to listen. A guest in a dark suit leaned forward, his brows furrowed, not with mockery but with interest. The room grew silent, except for the sound of Lily's music filling every corner. The chandelier sparkled above her, casting light across her determined face as her hands flew across the keys. The Thompson children, who had been smirking moments ago, now looked stunned. Their father's smirk faltered as well. He had expected a moment of ridicule, something to entertain his wealthy friends. Instead, he found the air charged with something he couldn't explain. When the final note fell into silence, there was no laughter, only stillness. Then, slowly, the room erupted into applause. Some clapped politely, others with genuine amazement. A woman in pearls even whispered, "She's incredible." Lily stood, her chest rising and falling as if she had run a marathon. Her eyes darted to her mother. Maria, trembling, set the tray down and clapped too, tears streaming down her face. But not everyone was pleased. Mr. Thompson forced a smile, hiding the irritation beneath his eyes. To him, Lily was still just a maid's daughter, and he wasn't about to let her steal the spotlight so easily. For a brief moment, Lily thought she had finally been accepted. The applause echoed in her ears, filling her chest with something she had never felt before, pride. But the warmth didn't last long. Mr. Thompson raised his hand, quieting the room. "Well," he said with a tight smile, "that was unexpected." His words dripped with sarcasm, and some of the guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But talent is nothing without discipline, and discipline requires opportunity, which, let's be honest, she doesn't have. A few chuckles rose again, as though the spell of the music had been broken. The Thompson children laughed loudly, relieved their father had restored the hierarchy. Lily's shoulders slumped, her eyes darting to the floor. Maria's heart ached. She wanted to scream, to tell them that her daughter was more than all of them combined, but she swallowed the words. Speaking up could cost her job, and they couldn't afford that risk. Just then, the man in the dark suit, the same one who had leaned forward earlier, stood. "Excuse me," he said. his voice calm yet commanding. The room hushed. I happen to know a thing or two about music, and what I just witnessed wasn't some accident. That was pure talent. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Isn't that Mr. Reynolds, the Music Academy director?" All eyes turned to him. Mr. Reynolds stepped closer to Lily. "Tell me, child, have you ever had lessons?" Lily shook her head, too stunned to speak. "No, sir. I just play." A soft smile touched his lips. "Remarkable. With training, she could be extraordinary." Mr. Thompson cleared his throat, irritation flickering in his eyes. "She's the maid's daughter, not some prodigy. Don't be fooled." But Mr. Reynolds ignored him. He reached into his pocket and handed Lily a card. "If you like, come see me at the academy. I'd be honored to hear you play again." Maria covered her mouth, her hands trembling. This was the opportunity she had prayed for. But as Lily held the card, she could feel the weight of Mr. Thompson's glare. He wasn't going to let this happen without a fight. The next morning, Lily couldn't sleep. Her fingers itched to play, replaying the melody from the night before in her mind. The card from Mr. Reynolds lay on her bedside table, a small rectangle that seemed to hold the promise of a new life. Maria sat beside her, brushing a stray lock of hair from her daughter's face. "Lily, this could change everything," she whispered. "But you have to be careful. Mr. Thompson, he doesn't like people who outshine his children." Lily nodded, her eyes bright with determination. "Mama, I have to try. I can't let fear stop me this time." Days passed, and Lily practiced harder than ever. Every note she played, every chord she struck, was a step toward the academy. But the mansion wasn't kind. Mr. Thompson, suspicious and controlling, began limiting her access to the piano. He assigned extra chores to keep her away and mocked every small mistake she made. The Thompson children whispered, laughed, and tried to humiliate her at every opportunity. Yet Lily persisted. She would wait until the family slept, sneaking to the grand piano to play in the silence. The keys responded to her touch as if they recognized her struggle, resonating with every ounce of her determination and pain. One evening, Maria overheard Lily whispering to herself, "I'll show them. I'll show them all." Her voice trembled, but there was steel in it now, a courage born from years of being underestimated. Finally, the day came for her first visit to Mr. Reynolds' academy. She walked into the building nervously, her small frame dwarfed by the towering walls lined with portraits of famous musicians. Mr. Reynolds greeted her warmly, sensing her unease. "Relax, Lily," he said. "Let the music guide you. Show me who you are." As she sat at the grand piano in the center of the room, her hands hovered above the keys. The silence was deafening, but she drew in a deep breath. When she pressed the first note, it was as if the world outside the academy vanished. For the first time, Lily felt completely free. The music flowed effortlessly from Lily's fingers, filling the room with a richness that stunned everyone present. Mr. Reynolds watched, a quiet smile on his face. He had seen many talented students in his lifetime, but there was something different about Lily, something raw, emotional, and unforgettable. After she finished, he leaned back, clearly impressed. "You have a rare gift, Lily. With the right guidance, you could perform in the finest concert halls in the country. But talent alone isn't enough. You must be disciplined, dedicated, and unafraid to face those who doubt you." Lily nodded, absorbing every word. She thought of her mother, of the laughter she had endured at the mansion, and of the countless hours she had spent practicing alone. This was her chance to prove not just her skill, but her worth. Back at the mansion, news of Lily's academy visit spread quickly. The Thompson children were furious that the maid's daughter might now receive recognition they could never imagine. Their sneers turned into whispered plotting, but Mr. Thompson himself seemed conflicted. He had always prided himself on controlling everything around him, yet for the first time, he couldn't dismiss Lily's brilliance. Days turned into weeks. Lily trained relentlessly under Mr. Reynolds' guidance, learning techniques she had never imagined. Every morning she would rush through her chores. Every evening she would play until her fingers ached. Maria watched silently, her heart swelling with pride and anxiety. She knew her daughter's talent was undeniable, but But the road ahead was still filled with obstacles. One afternoon, Mr. Reynolds received an invitation to a prestigious charity gala, a performance that could launch any young musician's career. "Lily," he said, eyes gleaming, "I want you to play. This is your moment." Lily's stomach twisted with nerves. She remembered the mansion, the laughter, and the skepticism. But she also remembered the thrill of the piano, the joy of creating something beautiful, and the promise she had made to herself and her mother, to rise above the doubts and prove her worth. She took a deep breath. This was more than a performance. It was her declaration to the world. The night of the charity gala arrived, and the grand hall was filled with the elite of the city. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above, and the air buzzed with anticipation. Guests in elegant gowns and sharp suits whispered among themselves, unaware of the storm that was about to break through the piano keys. Lily approached the grand piano on the stage, her dress simple but neat, her hands trembling slightly. The applause that greeted her was polite, but she could sense the underlying doubt in many eyes. Even Mr. Thompson sat rigidly in the audience, arms crossed, a mixture of skepticism and unease etched on his face. She placed her fingers on the keys, closed her eyes for a heartbeat, and let her heart speak. The first note resonated through the hall, delicate yet powerful. As her hands moved, the melody swelled, each chord telling a story of struggle, hope, and unwavering determination. The music captivated everyone. Whispers of astonishment replaced the murmurs of doubt. By the time she reached the finale, the audience was silent, spellbound by the emotion and mastery of her performance. When the last note lingered and faded, a pause hung in the air. Then the hall erupted into thunderous applause. Guests leaped to their feet, clapping, cheering, some even wiping tears from their eyes. Mr. Thompson's face had changed too. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a stunned recognition of what he had underestimated. His children, once cruel and mocking, now looked at Lily with a mixture of awe and shame. Maria, watching from the side, wept quietly, her heart overflowing with pride. After the performance, Mr. Reynolds approached Lily, beaming. "You were magnificent. This is only the beginning. The world needs to hear your music." Lily smiled, thinking of all the nights she had spent playing alone, the laughter that once crushed her spirit, and the courage it took to rise above it all. She realized that the piano had not only changed her life, it had silenced the doubts, transformed her dreams into reality, and proven that no amount of laughter or cruelty could dim true talent. From that night forward, Lily was no longer just a maid's daughter. She was a pianist whose music spoke louder than words, a girl who had turned mockery into triumph, and a beacon of hope for anyone who had ever been underestimated. Her journey had just begun, but one thing was certain. The world would never forget her melody.